Get connected with Take Two Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio. For email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit TakeTwoRadio.com.
Hi, this is Dave Roundtree, co-author of the soon-to-be-released Demon Street USA, author of Paranormal Technology, an all-around science geek in the paranormal. And when I'm not doing anything, I sit around and chuckle to the antics of the Malliard Report.
The opinions expressed in the Malliard Report are those of the hosts and participants and are not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any simulcasting radio network or sponsor. All listeners are advised to make their own decisions.
It's the Malliard Report, yeah, the Malliard Report, the paranormal talk radio show with Jim Malliard as your host. See what life beneath, any paranormal activity, go inside a world that others don't want to see. It's the Malliard Report, yeah, the Malliard Report. That it is. I want to welcome everybody to the Malliard Report tonight. Tonight's sponsor is Spectrum Light. Go to SpectrumState.com and view the best IR boosters available. Significant light illumination gain with the Sony infrared cameras. Visit SpectrumState.com or follow them on Twitter at AUParanormal.com or AUParanormal. Jeez, oh Pete. I just want to add .com to everything. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. I'm doing well. If you want to visit me, visit italkparanormal.com or follow me on Twitter, which is italkparanormal. I guess that's where I was headed to follow that. My guest tonight is John Alsedek. John, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you doing, Jim?
I cannot complain in the least, but even if I would complain, I don't think anybody would listen to the show anymore.
well, I'd have to listen just because I'm already on with you.
Well, you could probably you could do that hang up thing. People threaten to do that all the time.
Oh, my connection suddenly dropped.
So, I don't even know. I know where I want to start, but I know where I want to go too. So,
okay,
give me the brief bio about you because I know it, but I figured we've got to get there and get that out of the way.
Okay. My business partner Dana Perry Hayes and I do a revival of the classic radio anthology series Suspense. The original show was on from 1942 to 1962 and was really sort of anybody who was anybody in Hollywood at the time was on the show at some point. Our show is not quite at that level, but we've got some really good talent on the show. We're currently airing on about 150 radio stations, terrestrial and internet, and we've got a wonderful group of people that we work with, including Adrienne Wilkinson, who's best known as the Xena's daughter on the series Xena. Damon Krall, who's one of the great voice actors of our time. There is a very good chance you've heard Damon's voice in any number of films. He's been in over 100. Ron Batista, who's again one of these guys that I'm sure you've seen in any number of TV shows. He's usually cast as a heavy, but which is funny because in real life he's the most charming, just plain nice guy in the world. Susan Eisenberg, who is the voice of Wonder Woman on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and number of other people, but I don't want to stretch this too long. So
no, you're okay. We've got an hour. You can plug everybody out. It's okay.
Okay. Tucker Smallwood, who's and I keep saying this, but he's one of those actors that you've seen in any number of things. He's probably best known for his work on the Jodie Foster film Contact. Steve Moulton, who was in the more recent film Sharknado. Elizabeth Grayson.
Hey, but guess what? That as we both laughed, but that was an extremely popular movie, no matter what we think of it.
Oh yeah, and Steve's a comedian Ian first and foremost, so it was perfect for him. So yeah, we've produced 27 episodes so far. We're planning on doing at least 48, and it's just a lot of fun to do. The series has gotten a lot of attention, and a number of public radio groups nationally are thinking about running the show, at least as a limited to run over Halloween, appropriately enough.
Right. I understand that completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go backwards then. Let's go back to,
okay.
Why did you want to start doing this?
It's funny. When I was a kid, and I'm going to date myself here, but I was 8 years old when CBS Radio Mystery Theater went on the air, which would have been 73, 74. And I always snuck a little transistor radio into bed with me and would listen to that. And at the same time, I had discovered The Twilight Zone and had The Outer Limits and shows like that. And, the anthology formats have always appealed to me. But when I moved out to California in 2008, my intention was to work in TV and film. And but as happens a lot out here, I learned quickly, just because somebody says they're a producer and knows some famous people doesn't necessarily mean they have access to money, which is usually pretty important. And so it sort of occurred to me, the part of production that I like the least is the fundraising part, and the part that I like most is the creative part. The writing, the directing, the editing, and so I thought, why not radio?
It makes perfect sense to me because I love radio because I don't have to do any of the video stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And the production costs are pretty minimal compared to what you would have to do for a 30-minute television show. So we started, Dana and I started doing radio drama, and we recorded the first episode of Suspense, a pilot, back in March of 2012. And we sent it off to Sirius XM Book Radio 80, which had previously been, I don't know if you were a Sirius or an XM subscriber. It used to be a Sonic Theater. But and they listened, loved it, said, we're going to put you on. And from, I think, October of 2012 until the channel got repurposed in June of 2013, we were on as many as 5 times a week, along with the Twilight Zone radio dramas and some other classic shows. And it was very flattering. Very flattering. That
puts you right where you probably wanted to be with all those other shows that you were kind of, I don't want to say I was going to say stealing, but I'm going to say borrowing from.
Well, I mean, they're an inspiration in the same way that like One Step Beyond was an inspiration for the Twilight Zone, in that Rod Serling didn't really take any significant ideas from it, but it made him think, hey, that's a really good idea. I should do something like that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. And then in June, I think it was June of 2013, Book Radio 80 became Rural Radio 80, which meant instead of broadcasting radio drama, they broadcast crop reports. And so at that point, we started thinking, well, where do we go from here? So I started contacting radio stations, and with the goal of maybe getting on 30 or 35 radio stations nationally. And at the time, I think the Twilight Zone radio dramas were on something like 120 stations. And I just laughed about that. I thought, well, I suspect we'll never even get close to that. And a couple months later, we're looking at like 140, which was definitely a surprise. But so yeah, it's and we continue to add stations. In fact, we just oh fudge! Now Middle Tennessee Public Radio just added or is going to add the show in the near future. They've already confirmed they want to do it. Now they just got to work it into the schedule. So yeah, I think 200 to 250 is very doable by the end of the year.
Well, you've got a great product. I've listened to. You sent me 6 of them, I think it is, and I can't tell you enough how amazed I am, because I hear, being in the internet radio circles and the podcast groups that I'm in, you hear people all the time saying how great their show is, and you didn't tell me your show was great. You just sent it to me, which told me something, because anyways. But we're not going down that avenue right now. But you everybody tells me, oh, we're going to do this audio drama, whatever, and I listen to it and I go, yeah, thanks for the headache. But yours are so well done and so deserving of the attention they're getting. I just got to tell you that. So
thank you.
Okay, so where can people go? What's your website, and where can people go hear them if they want to hear them? Besides all the 150 networks that play them.
Let's see. Their website, which is hopefully out of date, I should add, is suspense-radio-show.com. And where can they hear it besides that? Well, there's a list of stations there. Plus, if you have a membership on Audible, which is Amazon's audiobook wing, the 18 episodes of Suspense that are available on there are free to subscribers. So if you already have an Audible membership, you can just get the entire bunch as a bonus, essentially. Otherwise, they're 99 cents a piece. And I will just throw this out there. If anybody listening would like to hear a couple of sample episodes, just drop us an email at info@bluehoursproductions.com, and we'll send you download links.
I would encourage everybody to go listen to one and tell me that you don't like it. That's all I want you to do. I'm sure there is somebody out there that probably will tell me they don't like it just to spite me, because that's how they are.
Well, that's sort of the where internet trolls come from. I mean, they'll take the contrary view just to be contrary.
Yeah, somebody has to do it, right?
Exactly.
So, okay. Like I said, I'm a little nerd here. We're going to go nerdy here for a minute. What's the hardest part of putting those together? Is it the writing, or is it the post-production?
Post-production, definitely. The writing part's really fun. I mean, 50% of the episodes that Dana and I write are adaptations of classic short stories, most of which are from the pulp era. I mean, 30s, 40s. The other half are original scripts that we come up with just for the show, and the scripts are by far the most fun part to do. In that, because we've got a core group of actors that we work with, and the group keeps growing. But as we're writing the script, you stop and think, who would be right for this part? Who would be right for this part? We turn the script out and then get into the studio, which is the most satisfying part, because you get to hear these wonderful actors, and I can't say enough good things about Adrian and Damon and Steve and Ron and Susan and Lizzie and Tucker and all our wonderful actors, because we've worked with them long enough now that we have a pretty good feel of what everybody can do, and then we'll throw them a little bit of a curve, and then they'll surprise us by being even better at it than we anticipated. So the sessions themselves usually run about 3 hours. We recorded a place in Hollywood, Melrose Music, and once we have the actual takes on a disc, they're in wave format at that point. Then it's just a matter of sitting down, figuring out which takes we like, and piecing them together, and then adding sound effects to that and adding music to it, and there you go. That's the hardest part by far.
You make it sound so easy. I tried to edit my show once and almost ran myself off a bridge. And I'm not trying to entertain anybody. So,
well,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Please, go ahead.
I was going to say, so when you're doing this, I mean, you've got so how long does it take from like you picked your script to pushing it out as a new episode?
That's sort of a tricky question. It really varies. If we're really pressed, we can get an episode done from the time we start the script until the finished product is there in 10 days. I mean, most of them, I am a little ashamed to say, do not turn around in quite that quick a time, because life always tends to get in the way.
Right.
I mean, if we can usually get a script done in maybe 3 or 4 days, and we jump in the studio, start editing at that point. 10 days. We could theoretically get 3 episodes done in a month. It doesn't work out that way, but it could. In a perfect world, it could happen that way.
Hey, dream big, right?
Exactly.
So now, has anybody, now that you've been doing this for a while, because you've kind of got good at this, said, "Hey, maybe we should rethink this TV thing"?
I'm sorry? What was it?
Has anybody come to you and said, "Hey, now that we know you can actually produce or make this kind of content," has anybody come back to you from the TV end of things and said, tried to gobble you back up?
Kind of. There's a company that's interested in doing the Suspense as an animated series, like a very black and white, noirish sort of animation. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if you've ever watched Batman the Animated Series, which was on during the 1990s, it's a very, very moody, evocative sort of animation. So it'd be in that sort of style. But what's appealing to this company is that we've already got the audio for it. Basically, you just have to do animation to it. Whether this will happen or not is another question. But there is talk about it. So that's the closest we've come so far.
And yet I can see it. I'm sitting here. I can see the little gray scale, so to speak. No color, just kind of it's all in black and gray and white, and I can just see it. I think that'd be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and what's actually really, really funny about this is that literally like a day after I sent the basically all the materials off, a couple of animators had done short Batman animated clips for Batman's 75th anniversary, and I saw one that was done in a very 1940s style, in black, grayscale, and thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly what it should look like, but without Batman.
Yeah, well, of course. Well, maybe you could twist Batman into one of these things, and anyways. It's the Malliard Report. My guest tonight is John Alsedek. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I have to do that every once in a while just for the sake of conversation, in case somebody tunes in midway.
That's okay.
Since I don't take full-fledged breaks, I try to throw that 5 seconds in there so people know what it is.
No problem.
So besides this little TV idea, what going forward has you excited? Either about the suspense line or just things that you're kicking around right now?
Let's see. Well, I mean, suspense. I hope we get to do this for quite a while because one of the joys of an anthology series is that every week it's a different story. I mean, that was always what appealed to me as a kid with the Twilight Zone and CBS Radio Mystery Theater, and because it's radio and you're not limited by what your TV technical budget will allow, this episodes can take place anywhere, literally anywhere at any time. But besides that, we're developing a second radio series called the Hooey Old Time Radio Hour. It's a sort of tongue-in-cheek version of a early 1950s radio variety show, where you would have the host and guest, a weekly guest star and a musical guest, and you would do different sketches. A Prairie Home Companion sort of does that, but it's all done live there. And what we do is I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Like the different segments, like Destination Venus, for example, is a space opera. It's about man's first mission to another planet, in this case Venus, and it's very, very silly in a 1950s B movie sort of way. But they are all meant to. It's sort of done it's in front of a mock audience, but we've already recorded it all in the studio and we're just piecing it together and then throwing in the audience effects. So we're shopping that one right now, and we've gotten some interest from public radio. We'll see how far that goes, but I really hope that one takes off as well, because as much as we like doing suspense and all the doom and gloom, it's fun to do comedy. It's and we're better at it than we ever anticipated what we would be.
Well, that's the thing, and that keeps the drama sharp too, because when you're not doing it every day, lets you come back to it with a new set of eyes and lets you review it better. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and it's funny because that was we had done that back in March, and more recently we just did another episode of Suspense, an adaptation of a short story called Far Below, which is probably one of the most unsettling episodes we've ever done, and I think it was even more so because we had just been doing something very lighthearted. Yeah.
Isn't that the worst, though? You think you're into something really easy, and then the next thing you know, it blows into this big, well, I guess, takes a turn and isn't what you thought it was going to be when you started.
Well, that's how I ended up doing radio.
I was going to say, that's like the story of your life right there, isn't it?
Pretty much. But you know what? I love doing it, and I hope that we're creating something that 50 years from now people can go back and listen to, like people go back and listen to the original Suspense. I mean, there's a certain timelessness about radio drama, because it's sort of hard to, if you look at a TV show, you can almost always figure out when it was done.
Right.
Especially if it's a contemporary show, in that you can just look at the hairstyles or the clothing and say, oh, 80s. but with a radio drama, it's very difficult to figure out when it was actually made. I mean, the shows that we do, like I think the one I sent, the very first one I sent you was Cool Air. It was the H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. That would have very easily passed as a an episode from the original Suspense, except for the fact that the sound quality is too good.
Yeah, that's the only difference. I've listened to a couple of the old ones just to kind of get my bearings straight just because I wasn't curious to see how, but that's the only difference really. I mean, they're they're all wrote kind of the same, kind of got the sound effects probably are a little bit better, and the sound's definitely better.
Yeah, well, because with the sound effects, we have the advantage of not having to do them on the spot. I mean, we're taking pre-recorded sound effects or occasionally making our own, but we don't have to do them on the spot like the Foley artists then did, which that's amazing. I've actually done that in live performances, and it's so hard.
I'm thinking of what movie is that? Is that Bull Durham where they're in the broadcast studio and the guy's like whacking the table and there's a head up the middle. And they're presenting this live baseball game broadcast. They're not even there. Playing big crowd music.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
I can't imagine trying. I struggle muting my mic when I go to cough, let alone trying to add any production value. So.
Yeah, doing the things all in post like this, definitely a lot easier. I can't imagine doing it live, because even the best of our voice actors will flub something here and there, and if you listen to the original show, you can pick up on occasion, where an actor sort of stumbles over something, but they're so good at it that it's almost not noticeable. And it's such an art.
It really is. It is, because like I said, I've tried editing my show and I get frustrated by it. And then you take it and compound it 7 times to do what you do, and it blows my mind. Like I said, and I've heard some bad ones, so I guess that makes it even better. You're a good one, so.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we're at the good end of the scale.
Well, you must be doing something right, because here's the thing. This is what I always tell people in the podcast circle. If your show's good, it'll get picked up by networks, even internet radio networks. If they're listening, you've got to send it off to people. If they think it's good, they'll pick it up. If they don't, they won't. Same with audio, like your show or any show. If somebody believes in it and puts it out there and somebody else likes it, it'll go somewhere. If somebody else doesn't like it, it won't go anywhere. Yeah.
I think ultimately public radio is going to end up being a good home for this kind of stuff we do. It's sort of hit or miss right now. Like the shows on Wisconsin Public Radio as part of their old-time radio coverage, and they're very happy with it. But there's so many public radio stations that are sort of locked into their talk, classical, or jazz format. And it's ridiculous. My hometown in Pennsylvania, the public radio station there won't carry the show. And the program director loves it. He says, if it was ultimately my decision, we would, but the station management doesn't want to do it because it's too far out of what they do.
There's 2 topics there. I want to go both directions at once, and I can't. So we're going to go to the Pennsylvania question first, and then we'll come back to the radio, this whole other radio mess here in a minute.
Okay.
I'm from Western Pennsylvania. You were from Eastern Pennsylvania. Why do we like to talk? Why do we like to do this audio thing? Is it something in the Pennsylvania?
Because we're from Pennsylvania, which means we know everything, and
that's
we're
right.
awesome. And everybody else should know that, right?
That's exactly right. I'm glad you said it.
I think there is something to Pennsylvanians and East Coasters in general tend to maybe be a little more outspoken. Maybe that's just a stereotype. I don't know. Well, it seems like there might be something to it, though.
There is something to it, but here's the thing. Most of my listeners are from the West Coast, so I don't know.
Okay.
Except for that big pocket in Virginia. I'm pretty sure that's Homeland Security listening to my show, and I'm probably on a do not fly list.
I don't know this man. I don't know this man.
It's kind of funny because there's this big spike in Virginia, and the rest of the East Coast is kind of up level, and then the West Coast does well, and then internationally, it's just amazing when I pull up that map and there's little spots all over the world. It's like, how did I get there? I don't even know how I got down the street, let alone around the world.
It's funny. We sort of had the same thing because we did a little map of where our stations are, just more out of curiosity than anything else. And we're really heavily we got really good coverage on the coast and in like Ohio and Wisconsin, but then there's this like big chunk of the middle of the country where it's like nothing. and it's to that way it's somewhat down in the southern portion of the country, but we're actually starting to get more stations down that way. So, but then again we've also got some stations in the Mediterranean coast of Spain, and we're also on the #1 English language station in Brussels, Belgium, of all places. So, I don't know what the reasoning is, but just glad to be there.
Take what you can get and love every second of it. So I guess this brings me kind of right back to where I wanted to be. The future of radio, because you're doing the old-time audio drama. I don't want to say old-time because you're doing it now, but that's kind of to put people in the right frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Where's radio going? I mean, everybody's saying the Internet's going to take over, and then there's those old radio people that say, we've been here, CDs were supposed to kill us, and this, that, and the other. So, so where's radio going?
In general terms, I'm not sure. I think in terms of radio drama, things are in a better state than they were probably 10 years ago. It's really sort of gone in ebbs and flows, and like in 1962 when the original Suspense went off the air, that's listed as the end of radio's golden age, like that particular day, which is like in September of 1962. And then there was like nothing, and then in the 70s, there was like a resurgence that lasted into the 80s, and then it dropped off again, and then around 2000, 2002 is when satellite radio started becoming more popular, and I remember hearing the Twilight Zone radio dramas on there, and I think the Internet's just going to make it give more opportunities for people to get their radio drama out there. There's a market for it. I think it's funny. I was talking to the guys at the Public Radio Exchange, and they really foresee an upturn in radio drama, and they think public radio is just a little bit behind the curve, but probably in the next year or two, there might actually be some sort of market opening up there. And I think I got way off the track of your question.
No, you're right on my question, actually. You're right on it, actually. That's pretty good. That's interesting to think about, though, because I really do think there is a market for it, because the TV is kind of lacking drama right now. Mm-hmm. It's all reality shows. So I think there's a definite void for actual drama, besides the Facebook drama. That's a whole other topic.
Yes, that's true. I was thinking about public radio. It's been 10 years since, I think it's been over 10 years since they've run nationally any sort of radio drama. But which is funny because I think the highest rated program they ever had on National Public Radio was the Star Wars. They had done a radio drama version of Star Wars, and I think it had a lot of the. I'm not even going to say this. I just remember reading that they got almost a million listeners per episode, and if you watch Darn, that's terrible. PBS. I had to think about it there for a second. PBS, which is the television equivalent of NPR. It's the anthology series Mystery has been on there for 30, 35 years, something like that. I mean, it's a staple. So I'm hoping that at some point National Public Radio decides that, hey, maybe suspense would be a nice audio equivalent of Mystery.
I agree with you. I hope they do. If not, I think by the looks of it, you're on track to kick them out of the water anyway, so I think you're okay. I mean, what 150 some odd stations plus? I mean, you're doing all right. It's not like you need them.
Well, to put it into perspective, I think Rush Limbaugh is on like 500 stations. I think it's Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something like that. It's some ridiculous number. but
of course, he owns 400 of those in his backyard, but we're not talking about that.
I think. I always get in trouble when I try to think of a number. I think there are like 1,500 NPR stations in the U.S. So I mean, if we could tap into that market, that would be remarkable.
Right. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying it is.
But and even as things go, I'm pretty. I think we are doing pretty well in that. We're on a Wisconsin Public Radio. We're on a couple of the biggest stations on the Pacific Radio Network, which is I think there are about 100 stations nationally. We're very popular in college stations for some reason.
Because that's young, and I think it's interesting that because they're not used to the old stuff. So that's
and I'm so often caught off guard by some 18 or 20-year-old writing back and saying, "Oh yeah, we love this stuff." I'm thinking, wait, you were in diapers when you weren't even a glint in anybody's eye when CBS Radio Mystery Theater was on.
But that's the thing. We're so drama deprived now because of all these reality shows.
Mm-hmm.
That a good good audio drama fills that void. That's why people like books and movies and all this other stuff to be entertained. But your show's half an hour, so. Like I always say, because I host the fastest hour in paranormal talk radio. Mm-hmm. People want that short volume. They don't want movies are probably the exception to the rule, but even that is getting border. Some of them are shortening down just because they know the attention span isn't there for it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I love the half hour format just because. That's watching the Twilight Zone. That's what I always, just got used to seeing. This 30-minute episode, but we've done some longer ones. I think the longest one we've done is about 40 minutes so far. So I mean, we're not, if we were asked to do it as an hour show, it wouldn't be a huge problem. But
yes, it would. He'd have to put 20 minutes of commercials in there for you.
Well, I mean, going forward, if somebody says, "Here's $20 million, make a bunch of 1 hour episodes, brand new one," I would, first I'd faint. And
I was gonna say somebody'd have to pick you up off the floor.
Yeah, but all things considered, I think 30 minutes is we enjoyed doing 30-minute ones more. So.
All right. My guest tonight is John Alsedeck. This is the Malliard Report. So, okay, I've kind of ripped up some lesser audio shows. So let's go back and now that they're not listening, try to be nice guys and help them out. Do you have any tips for somebody that's trying to put together an audio drama?
Wow, that's a tough one, and the only reason I say that is because even though we've been doing this for a couple of years now, I really still consider myself a rookie. I mean, I didn't have any audio engineering training going into this. I mean, basically it's just sitting there with the headphones on, thinking, okay, well, this sounds about right. Maybe to tweak this a little bit. But if I was going to throw any one thing out there, is get the best sound you can. I mean, get the clearest sound you can get, because nothing is going to turn an audience off faster than. And I hear it all the time. Is where I think the person who edited it together either didn't have headphones on or wasn't in a quiet enough environment to really pick up the subtleties. But you can actually hear where the different tracks start and stop, and there's like a hiss, and then there's not a hiss, and then the voices will sound real tinny. One of the things that we have done from the beginning is we made sure we found a very good studio, and we get the cleanest sound we can, and because that you can tell the best story in the world, but if it doesn't sound good, nobody's going to listen to it.
It's good advice for any type of audio show. And for the record.
Yep.
Okay. So, okay. You graduate school and you move to Hollywood. I mean, I know that's always the lure. Everybody has that big dream. But seriously, what were you really I mean, if the golden check, so to speak, or the golden ticket, what were you actually hoping to accomplish out there? What were you dreaming of, I guess?
Actually, it's funny because when I came out here in 2008, so it's been almost 6 years now. I had a pilot written for a TV series, and I ran into a producer almost immediately, and he was very enthusiastic about it, and he started introducing me to some pretty cool people. I got to meet Jeff Goldblum, Peter Weller, a bunch of Star Trek actors. And I'm standing there as this producer guy's telling him about the script, and they're going, "Oh wow, that sounds like a lot of fun." And then it turns out he doesn't have any money or any means of getting any money. He just knows people. And after about a year I've sort of blocked this out of my memory.
It's okay.
After about a year of absolutely nothing happening, I started thinking, maybe I need to find something else to work on. And slowly I found my way into doing a radio drama, which, if I could, I would still love to do this particular TV series. It's called 9 Lives, and it's about it takes place in 1958, and it's about a cat burglar who, through some unforeseen circumstances, basically ends up with the fate of the world in her hands. And it'd be a lot of fun to do, but it's one of those things that I hope we get to do it someday. But I'm happy doing what we're doing right now, and I hope we get to do a lot more of it.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's keeping you busy, what you're doing now, at least, so you're not out roaming around
oh yeah.
in Hollywood trying to bump into producers all the time. So,
well, I'd have to be wandering off my laptop. With my laptop, my headphones on, hoping to be discovered.
You and how many other thousands of people out there just roaming around trying to.
No, yeah, it's crazy. But every once in a while I'll stop and think about this. Is that 10 or 12 years ago I was back in Harrisburg, and I'd sit and watch some of my favorite shows, and now I get to work with the same people and not just work with them, but to order them around. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the old joke goes, I work with that person. What do you do? Well, I mop the floor after they leave. Well, anyways.
Well, No, in particular, I'm thinking of. It's funny. There was a series. I don't know if you ever saw it. I think it was only on for one season. It's called Space Above and Beyond. It was a science fiction show, and my two favorite actors in the show were James Morrison, who is he's yet another one of those guys. If you saw him, you go, oh yeah, him. He's most recently on 24, but and Tucker, and they had some scenes together. I thought, oh my gosh, these guys are wonderful actors. And fast forward 10 years, and there's Tucker in front of the microphone. Then every once in a while I'll have a moment like that and think, oh wow, this is too cool.
Okay, so speaking of too cool, here I've got this random, not really random question, but ridiculous question, I guess. If I could blank ticket it again, here we are with this blank ticket or check.
Sure.
Put together like your dream cast of people to work with on one of your shows.
Already have them.
No, you don't. If I could get anybody. No offense to your current crew, they're all great, but there's always that one. There's at least somebody out there that you'd like to have for at least even a guest voice here or there.
Oh yeah. It's funny because they're all animation people, or like Mark Hamill, who did the voice of the Joker on Batman, or Kevin Conroy, who's been the voice of Batman for like 20 years now, or Jeffrey Combs is a marvelous actor who I've seen in anything from. I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Reanimator. But from there, various Star Trek series, and he's done a fair amount of animation work as well. People like that, and it's funny. Susan Eisenberg was one of the people on that list, and through a friend of a friend, we ended up meeting, and now we've had her in the studio, and she's just the delight to work with. I mean. But I digress. I would say there are a handful of people like that, but in all seriousness, I love the people we've got. I mean, they're trying to think if there's anybody else. I mean, there are no like big Hollywood names that I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to do a radio show with Scarlett Johansson. I mean,
I've got a name for you that's on my list of people I'd want to interview with. And if you ever see him, you need to like knock him over the head and get him to a phone and call me. It's Seth MacFarlane. I know it's kind of a newer, Family Guy and that whole mess. I just think I've seen a few interviews with him being like serious. Not, not doing the impersonations, not doing, just talking about the crap. That fascinates me. Not the doing the voices and all that other stuff. Just it would be funny, but he just is so well spoken and so educated. It just blows my mind because you hear the humor all the time, and you don't think about the other side of him, and there's a huge other side to him. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I've never seen an interview with him, but
you have to look it up on YouTube because I can't remember. I've seen him a couple different places, and I was impressed by him. So if anybody out there knows and you can help me make that happen.
Okay. I don't know him, but if I run into him.
Hey, I'm just putting it out there for the cosmos because that's one of the questions that I normally get asked when I'm doing an interview. Who would you like to interview? And I never really come up with a solid answer, but now I have one. So now I've put the blinders on, so to speak. So now I'm just going to put it out there for the world to hear. And somewhere out there, somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. Anyways, it might not be you, but somebody.
Yeah, it's sometimes things work out exactly like that. I mean, somebody who's listening might go, oh yeah, I know this guy who knows this guy who knows Seth MacFarlane, and all of a sudden you're getting a phone call.
I had Jim DeFelice on my show last April, who is the co-author of American Sniper, and I literally had to message him back and forth. I don't want to say daily, but it wasn't daily, but it was quite often for a couple weeks just to get him on the show. Because he's like, I don't talk paranormal. I'm an author. I said, I'm not going to talk to you about paranormal stuff. I'm going to talk to you about your books. So, it's like we went back and forth, and then he comes on, he has a great time, sends me a little note afterwards, if you ever want me back on, da-da-da-da. I'm like, see, I told you it'd work out well. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't it cool when things work out better than you ever anticipated that they would?
Oh, it is. It's just amazing sometimes when you get, you're sitting here and you're thinking, you're a cool dude. I like talking to you, but it's pretty cool that around the world people are hearing us too. It just always still gets me when I start thinking about things like that.
Mm-hmm. Where's the most unusual place that you've looked on the map and say, hey, somebody's listening in?
It's not unusual, but it kind of caught me off guard. I actually got an email from a guy in Brazil once.
All right.
It's like, whoa, cool. Because, you get the London people and the Australia people, you kind of, know they're more into this, more global and connected. But Brazil was kind of like, wow, this really is that kind of big deal that people say it is. Very cool. So how do you like the show? He loved the show. I was surprised that, he downloads it because he can't listen to it live because of his work schedule. He's telling me all this great. I'm like, okay, I'm glad you like the show. But wow. Yeah, it's just amazing. People think it's the internet and, it's the World Wide Web. But until you actually get those messages from faraway places, the places you want to go, if I could travel to the places I've got messages from, I'd be excited. Well, maybe that's the next step. Maybe. Host me at your remote, and I'll host the remote with me and send me the airline ticket, and I'll come do my show from your porch. Exactly. I think it sounds like the way to go. It sounds like a great idea. Do a contest. Yeah, well, hey, if they want to put me up and deal with me, I'll go everywhere. No contest needed. See, problem solved. And speaking of which, I'll throw the promo out while you're with me here. I'm doing a roast next week where people get the opportunity to call in and throw barbs at me. And the number is, for everybody, 234-738-2552. I've got a bunch so far, but obviously you can always use more for this type of event. And some of them that I've got already are hilarious. I was downloading because my wife is going to host it, so you can imagine where this is going to end up. So she said download them for me so I could hear them. Of course, I couldn't help myself. I listened to them because I wanted to hear what people were calling and saying. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a good show next week. So I'm restricting myself. That's that kind of old time stuff. They used do those more prevalent. So I'm not going to talk until like this time in the show next week. So hopefully I can contain myself long enough and enjoy the show enough to. Maybe I'll have to come up with something. Yeah, you probably can. I know there's a lot of people out there that are waiting and are smart people. It's running out of time because, like I said, she's hosting and wants to get it all together, and so I think I set the deadline as Sunday night. So still got plenty of time, but. Okay, well, it's an excuse to watch some of those old D. Martin roasts now for inspiration. Yeah, for inspiration. It's going to be fun, and I hope everybody needs to call in. Got a few that were really short, a couple that were a couple minutes. It doesn't really matter. Just call in and either say you love the show, or even hey, here's the alternative. You can say you hate the show too. To roast, I can't really say anything until the end. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, Okay. Well, John, oh, goodness. Tell people where they can find you and find the show again before we run out of time. For information about the radio series Suspense, go to suspense-radio-show.com. Or if you want to download episodes, go to audible.com/Blue Hours. Well, John, the hour absolutely flew by. I want to thank you for coming on. I'm glad we crossed paths in an unusual fashion to start with, but that's how these good things happen.
Yeah. See, exactly. And this is the sort of thing that's going to lead you to higher levels like Seth MacFarlane.
One can hope.
Because you never know when you're going to run across somebody like that.
You run across enough people, you run into the person you want to eventually. So.
Yep.
All right, John. I'll let you go because I'm going to read the sponsor, and then I'm going to be out. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on, Jim.
And that's John Alsedeck. Okay. And here's the sponsor plug. Spectrum Light is the best IR boosters available. Significant illumination gains made with the Sony infrared cameras. Visit SpectrumState.com. Follow Spectrum State on Twitter at AU Paranormal. And if you didn't catch that, or you want to see it again, or you want to see the link again, just follow me on Twitter. And that's okay. That's all you need to do is follow me on Twitter. And like I said, pay attention. The tweets for the roast will be going out. It'll be fun. Like I said, I couldn't help myself. I've listened to a few of them this afternoon. And if you want to call in, the number again is 234-738-2552. Standard tolls rates apply. If you want to send me a MP3, please feel free to at italkparanormal@gmail. Get them in so we can get them on the air next week. Until then, keep talking about me. Having fun. Enjoy life, everybody.
Before we flip that on-air sign to the off position, a quick reminder. For all things about the report, previews, and reviews, go to italkparanormal.com.
If you're looking for a radio show where all things paranormal go, well, tune in and be in the know with Jim Malliard as your host. Come and see what lies beneath paranormal activity. The Malliard Report. Yeah, the Malliard Report. Tune in and listen every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, right online. The Malliard Report. Yeah, the Malliard Report.
Get connected with Take Two Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Take Two Radio. For email updates on future shows, follow at Blog Talk Radio. For previous episodes, upcoming guests, and more, visit take2radio.com.